Hey, thanks for dropping by and checking out this message. These lessons come from our Sunday gatherings at Victory Christian Church in Franklin, Indiana. Our 5th through 8th graders meet at 9 or 10:30 a.m. and our high schoolers meet from 6 to 8 p.m. If you find that this content brings value to your life, then please consider subscribing and hitting that bell so that you can be notified when we upload our next message. Our hope is that this video brings more clarity into your life as to who God is and what He wants for you in light of who Jesus is and what He's done for you. Enjoy and have a great day. How are we doing this morning? Awesome. Well, we are going to be continuing our series in circles. So what I need from you guys is go ahead and split back up into your groups. Just like last week, if you were here, we're going to do our lesson with our group time. It'll be a little more conversational and a little more, hopefully, emphatic of our point, since our series is circles. So we're going through this series about friendship called Circles, and today I want to ask you a question, all right? Have you ever gotten in trouble because of someone you know? Now, I've got a couple personal stories to fill in this. I had a friend whose name also was Zach growing up, and we were friends all throughout elementary school and part of middle school. And see, he would talk me into these things that I felt really uncomfortable with, but like I was just there, so I was like, okay. And so, like, I remember one time specifically, he thought it would be funny to prank call people, you know? And this was back in like before caller ID, we thought. So at least our phone didn't have caller ID. So we start typing in these random numbers and calling them from his landline in his bedroom at his house. And he said, Zach, this will be fun. I said, Zach, no, it won't. We'll get in trouble. And he goes, Zach, relax, don't be such a baby. Dials the number, calls it, and his mom comes and knocks on the door right as somebody answers, and he goes, ooh, and then hangs up. And then the mom's like, do you guys want some brownies or whatever? She's being real nice and, you know, hospitable, and yeah, sure, yeah, we'd love that. And then so we're like, dude, let's just not do this. And so we go out into the living room, and she's making, I don't remember, brownies or cookies or something. And I remember just like sitting there and just like kind of sweating. My hands were like kind of, you know, that clammy feeling when you're nervous. And all of a sudden the phone rings. And we're going, what's this? And she answers and she goes, just a minute. She walks into the living room. She goes, did you call somebody? And, you know, I was the silent type and just, you know, avoided eye contact. He goes, no, we were trying to call David, is a friend of ours. We were trying to call David and we must have dialed the wrong number. She goes, oh, okay. And she looks at us like, I'm not sure I buy your story, but this person's on the phone and I'm gonna get them off the phone. So she goes she comes back later, she goes, were you prank calling people? And she asks us straight up. Apparently this is something Zach had done before. And I, you know, didn't look at her, I kind of looked down, and he lied his way out of it, and I sat silently and was like, I don't agree with lying, but I didn't agree with that phone call either, and I'm not speaking up. So we got away with it that time, but there was another time we were at his house, and we weren't prank calling, it was more like trespassing. And only I didn't know it was trespassing. We were like, hey, there's like this wooded area next to his house. Let's go out to the woods. And I said, sure, because that sounds fun. And so we went out to the woods and started exploring and what we thought were hiking trails. And apparently there were lots of no trespassing signs that we passed that I didn't see. And we're walking around, and I don't know if it was a figment of our imagination or if it was, you know, just us being freaked out as two 6th grade guys walking in the woods or what it was. But we saw somebody off in the distance, like behind some tarps and stuff, like maybe a makeshift campground. And I could have sworn I saw like a rifle, like pointing out. And I was like, we gotta get out of here. And we would start walking back. And as we're walking back, it had rained the night before, and there's a big old muddy footprint heading our direction when we head back. And we're like, I don't remember seeing that there. Somebody's following us. And so we start running even more. And then like we start like being quiet, and all of a sudden, like behind this big old pine tree, we hear these footsteps and this like labored breathing. And Zach goes, Zach, run! And we all like take off, and we like sprint. Like I probably never run that fast in my entire life. Ran back to his house, and told his mom what had happened. And she goes inside, she calls the police. The police show up, and they're like, we did chase somebody off the premises. We didn't see a gun. But boys, do you know that that was trespassing? And, we got in trouble for it. And he's like, he let us off with a warning. But for me, that was still trouble. The cops yelled at us, I will always remember that story because of how terrified I was and because of how I got dragged into one of his other stupid ideas that somehow I ended up getting in trouble with. And, it's kind of one of those things that I sat there and I remember thinking, why did this happen to me? And it's an interesting phrase, right? We ask ourselves, we say, it happened to me. When you're in trouble for something and your parents ask you, what happened? And you're like, oh, it just happened. Anybody ever used that one? I have. I don't know, it just happened, right? That's not really an answer. And if your mom's like my mom, that they don't take that answer, so they push you for a better answer. But we use that phrase a lot. It happened to me, it just happened, But what happened to you, actually, I'm going to push because this is what happened to me, and I know that the similar thing probably happened to you. But what happened to you is actually probably that something you happened into. It's probably not something that happened to you. It's actually something that you happened into. So I'm going to turn it over to your groups for just a minute. You're going to kind of dissect that. What does that mean? That you happened into it. I want you to talk about this for a couple minutes and then we'll come back up here. All right. So, what's an answer that you guys came up with as a group? What does that statement mean? Somebody just raise their hand if you want to answer for your group. Shout it out. Say it a little louder. Someone dragged you into something? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
You had a choice.
You had a choice. You wandered into something. Okay. So maybe you didn't make the choice, but you wandered into a place. Okay. Those are all really great answers. Thanks for sharing. The point is that, sometimes things happen to us, but 9 times out of 10, a lot of the things that happen in your life, particularly in middle school and high school, happen because of choices you make, right? You don't just happen into failing a class at school, right? You usually are failing a class because you chose not to do the homework. Or you usually get kicked off the team because you chose not to show up to practice. Or maybe you got grounded because you chose to break the rules, right? We don't. Things don't just happen to us. We have a part in it. Sometimes we happen into the things that go on in our lives, right? And here's what happens is we often don't happen into it alone. We all have a circle of friends, right? From our diagram last week, we all have a circle of friends who are leading you towards these choices, right? It reminds me of a scene from one of my favorite movies, and I'm a Pixar nerd, so how many of you guys like the Pixar movies? Like Toy Story, Monsters, Inc., classics, right? I thought The Good Dinosaur was actually really good. Cried a little, not gonna lie. So one of my favorite Pixar movies, though, is Finding Nemo, and it reminds me of that scene where they touch the butt. Check this out. So, if it hadn't been for Nemo's friends, his audience there, he probably would not have swam out and actually done it, right? If this has just been a conversation between him and his dad, he probably wouldn't have swam out to the middle of the ocean and touched the boat, or the butt, whichever one you prefer. And I remember thinking that was like the funniest thing when I watched that. I was like your guys' age when that came out. But anyway, so the reality is, like, you and I both, we have friends that are in our circles that sometimes lead us towards unwise decisions. Whether that's maybe they slid you the cheat sheet to the test, or maybe they encouraged you to break curfew, or maybe they helped you lie to your parents. Whatever it is, sometimes our circle of friends can have positive influences, but sometimes they can have very negative ones. And maybe they convince you to do something that you promised yourself you would never do. And then you found yourself having to deal with the consequences of those things. And you didn't get the chance to go back and make a different choice after it already happened. And that's a tough place to be. Maybe you didn't have the decision to go there in the first place, but you had a friend who was pushing you there every step of the way, who was leading you there, and influencing you in ways that maybe you didn't realize you were quite susceptible to. The people you keep close to you have the potential to impact your life and your choices. And the closer they are to you within your circle of friends, the more influence they have in some of the decisions that you happen yourself into. Who you let in your circle matters. This is so important. Who you let in your circle matters. And it's really easy to kind of forget how important that is. But as students go to a lot of different places for friendship advice. Maybe there's Google or YouTube, and probably none of you use magazines anymore. But there's lots of places that you can go to find some friendship advice. And maybe not all of them is great. Some of them might be, but the best resource, I believe, is God's Word. And in the Bible, there's a lot of wise sayings to give us advice on how to live life the best way. And so we're actually going to look in Proverbs, and you're going to go through this with your group. So you'll have a few minutes to discuss this with your group, and then we'll draw our attention back up here to kind of wrap up. So go ahead and talk through this verse with your group and talk through some of the truth applications of this concept, and we'll be back in just a minute. All right. So who you let into your circle matters. It's something that's kind of the theme for today, is who you let in your circle matters. Now, it's really easy and tempting to look at that and say, okay, wait, so are you saying, Zach, that I should never allow anybody who's not a Christian in my friend group? Like, I should only be friends with good people. And that's not what I'm saying, because part of being a good friend is being a good friend to those who actually need good friends as well. But what I'm saying is that who you let into your circle matters, into your circle of influence. And you have to be wise about the friends that you allow into your inner circle. The friends that are closest to you, the ones who have the most influence over your life, the ones who have the potential to allow you to happen into the best parts of your life, to make the wisest choices, and to live for Jesus in a way that makes a difference in the world around you. And so who you let in your circle matters, but you have to be wise about who you allow into your inner circle. It doesn't mean you can't be friends with certain people, although only you can make that judgment on that. You should seek wise counsel in those decisions. But it does mean who you allow into your inner circle is a bigger deal than maybe some of these people from the outside, or the people who are just kind of acquaintances in your life. So how do you be wise about who you allow into your inner circle? First off, you got to choose your inner circle carefully. And it shouldn't be big. Like, Jesus himself only had like 3 people who were in his inner circle. It was Peter, James, and John. And so it doesn't have to be a large number, but it should be people who have shown a history of making wise choices and led you well, been good influences on you. Those are the kinds of people you should carefully choose about being in your inner circle. And secondly, you should let those people know that they are in your inner circle. And not so that you can start your own club or a little clique or anything like that, but so that those people can have permission to speak truth into your life. To say some of the hard things that sometimes you wouldn't listen to if it came from anybody else. And you guys know those kinds of people. There are people who, like, if they try to tell you what to do, you're like, you don't know my life, back up, right? But then there's other people that they speak truth into your life and you're like, you're right. You might be mad at first, but you'll look back later and you'll know that they were right. And those are the people that you want in your inner circle. So be wise about the friends that you allow in your circle. And as you guys kind of wrap up your small group time, you probably won't get to this question, but it's something I want you to think about as you leave the room today. And it is this question: who is one friend who influences my life right now? If you can identify that and if you can think about that, that'll allow you to make the best decision moving forward. So you got a couple more questions to answer with your small group, and then I'll let them close you guys out in prayer, and we'll see you guys next week. Hey, hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you're subscribed so you're notified when we upload future videos. Have a great day.